Hello, Hannah Chelsea, the baby maven here, and I am so excited to welcome you to today's expert interview. We have so much good stuff to discuss today, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to today's guest expert, Asha. Being trained as a molecular biologist and spending over a decade in business development and sales in the biotech industry, Asha now mentors evolved entrepreneurs and executives to clarify personal fulfillment, ensure work and life balance, and establish systems for profitable and sustainable enterprises. I know that you're just gonna love Asha, so I'll pass it over to her so she can tell you a bit about herself and her biz.
Hi. I really love chatting with you. And as you know, when you had reached out, I am so passionate about helping um, first time and young mothers. I have two daughters, 13 and 10, and I have navigated the world of entrepreneurship and corporate life in all kinds of manners, like full-time, part-time, no time, everything, right? And so I just really wanted to just come here and have a giving heart, because I've been through the trenches and I know what it's like to manage a lot, manage a family, manage passion, and also, we want to also like sustain ourselves financially too. So I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to have you here. And I know that everybody is going to benefit from what you have to share because every time that we talk, I feel like I get so much out of it. And you do. You have such a giving heart that you add so much value just through like all of your interactions, which I adore. And so I wanted to start off with talking about kind of the journey of motherhood and entrepreneurship and finding that balance.
Is there such a thing? Well, here's the thing. Balance is a moving target. And the moment that you realize that it's a moving target, it's the moment that you can just start breathing and start just accepting exactly what it is, right? Um, yeah, as I mentioned to you, one of the tools that I use, which we'll talk a little bit, is called 9-Star Key, which is a Chinese divination tool. And that has been pretty pivotal for me for the past 13 years because it's given me a sense of what is the new year supporting me, what kind of energy. So that is first, like that's really helped me in have some kind of balance. The second thing is, as I said, is accepting that, you know, stuff is going to hit the fan constantly. Just like a couple months ago, I was doing a blab and, my kids are older. So people who have younger kids think, oh, it's so much easier now that your kids are older. Yes and no. I was doing this blab and I had my oldest daughter like literally talking to me right here, kind of crying. And I'm like being interviewed on this blab and I'm just like caressing her head. And it's like, I just go with it. Because I don't know. I just do. I can't get stressed out about not being professional. It's just, this is my life. My life is my girls. My life is my family. And also my life is my work. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the best that I can, conjure up. Cause it's always a moving target is what I would say.
I think you said it beautifully, that finding that balance is actually accepting that it's going to totally be in flex and that having a balance one day is probably completely different than having a balance the next. It just depends on like what ratio you have that day of work and spiritual life and all of those things and making it the best fit for you and being really okay with just kind of however it plays out and knowing that that's how it was meant to happen.
And the only thing is that you can't let it get so far off that you can't get yourself back. That's the thing that I have learned throughout the years is that how do I gauge where I am at any given time? And there's this great, I think it was originally a business book, but they turned it into a children's book, and it's called How Full is Your Bucket? And they talk about, like for kids, like figuring, so kids know when their limits are, right? So they start asking themselves the question, is my bucket full? Meaning, like, do I feel good, or is my bucket empty? And what are the things that make my bucket empty? And what are the things that fill me up? And I've been using this with my clients for the past few years, because it's a really great reminder of, like, okay, where am I? Am I at 50% empty? Am I, like, where am I? And if you're having a series of days where it feels pretty empty, it's really time to take charge, and really time to begin to enroll people to help you and to support you. And I definitely would say that support is a huge thing when you're first mom or new mom and you have little ones, is being okay with asking for that help. From your spouse even. Sometimes we think like, well, they have one role, I have one role, and some of us are playing dual roles. And but I think, being able to say to the person that loves you, I'm needing more right now, is really, really important.
Yeah, something that really stuck with me from the first conversation that I had with you was that you phrased it as, we thrive in a tribe. And then you said, it's not natural to be on your own to raise a child. And I thought that was so cool, especially knowing that you do have like this scientific background, that you were bringing this whole other like realm in, being like, no, actually, like, if you look at it biologically, we're supposed to be in like a tribe.
Yeah, it's true. Biologically, if you look at just from our development as a species, right? Like, that's one thing. But even from a hormonal standpoint, from a biochemical standpoint, we need one another. And you start seeing this when women start menstruating at the same time, right? Like, if you were ever in college or some kind of dorm situation, it was like everyone was menstruating at the same time. And biologically, at that biochemical level, we sync with one another. And so what begins to happen when we're not syncing? And it's okay that we live in modern times and that we don't live as a tribe. Like, we're evolving, we're moving into something else. That's okay. But what do we do with that? Well, in some way, we have to understand that our brain and our biology is needing that communal piece. And it's really needing to connect with people. I thought, for me, one of the things that I have found more powerful is to create circles of women, like really sisterhoods that support one another. And, as much as I love Sex and the City, and that's super fun, and, it's really cute and all of that, I think that when I'm talking about sisterhood, I'm really talking about women who are supporting you, not just at that day-to-day level, but that are supporting you in that purposeful way. Because I think most of the women in your community are women who are entrepreneurs or coaches, or women who already know their passion or are pretty vested in moving forward with their passion. And so when you have this thing, and you may be having relationships with other moms who maybe aren't there, I find that it's, as much as I love diversity and as much as I think it's important for us to have diversity, it's also really nice to connect with like-minded people. And that's probably what you're doing for a lot of them too.
Yeah, definitely. It is so important to find, to use kind of what we were talking about before, like your own tribe, like not even just like in general, like, oh, well, it's good to have support, but finding the people who really can best support exactly what you specifically need and what you're craving in life, even if that is like a little bit of independence or time away or anything that you would need for your self-care, to just have people who understand that and can say, okay, I've got your back through this.
So what are the things that you're hearing your community, like, that is the biggest challenge for them?
Well, I would say probably the biggest challenge that they're having right now is figuring out how to make themselves a priority or even recognizing that that's something that they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like the major struggle is kind of that feeling of overwhelm and my life is just chaotic and this is supposed to come naturally to me, and instead it's feeling like a stressful experience, or you're feeling guilty because you get frustrated with your baby. It's unfortunately coming across as like new parenthood is just, there's a lot of negative emotions that are swirling around with it, and so it seems like that's most of my community seems to be struggling with kind of that, just that overwhelm, and then realizing that, okay, it's okay to ask for support, or you do need to make your own needs a priority.
That is instrumental in thriving, that oxygen mask thing. And you hear people say it everywhere and everyone's like, yes, but the practice of actually making yourself first is so loaded, right? Because people feel that, oh, that's selfish. And I will tell you that one of the first things that I did, and my kids were a little bit bigger, and I wish I had recognized how important this was. But when I started practicing yoga, and it was a 6 day a week practice. And, my husband was like, yes, do it. It's great. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting up early, all this good stuff. And, a week and a half into it, he was like, okay, you got to stop this. All hell is breaking loose every morning. What's going on? And what I found was that, okay, I needed to have this conversation of saying, I'm sorry, you're getting triggered because you're not taking care of your health. And we both agreed that this was really important to me. And I'm noticing that my patience and my bucket, to bring it back to that book, is so full because I'm taking care of myself. I mean, especially for me, the way I see yoga is biochemically, right? Like you're exercising. And then for me was also very much of a spiritual practice. So oxygen mask on yourself first is a number one priority. Be gentle and compassionate with yourself because you are learning. Literally, we are learning and rewiring ourselves to know how to do this because most of us have not been taught how to do this. Most of us come from a paradigm of making that a selfish thing or making that a like, I'm not really sure how I go about this thing. And of course, we don't want to neglect our children. I mean, that's not what we're after here. But what we're really after is how do you fill up that bucket? And another little tip that I want to give you is, so for a while, I recognized I am kind of a half extrovert, introvert, but as a mother, I very much need my alone time. And I don't want my alone time in a coffee shop. I want my alone time in my house, watching movies on my couch right here. Like that's what makes me happy. And when the kids were little, I made this agreement with my husband that every Sunday he would take them out. Well, you can, that sounds great. But in practicality, that doesn't always happen. And so I was like, okay, I can be resentful towards him for not giving me what I need. And then that's a whole other that's a whole other show that we can have on this topic. Or I can really take command of this thing that I know I really need. And so I started hiring a babysitter every other Sunday for a few hours. And I told her, like, take the kids out. Like, I want them out of the house so that I can have my alone time. And even if he, wasn't coming through on the other Sundays, I at least knew that I had that other Sunday to look forward to. So for whatever that's worth.
I think that's great. Something else that without actually saying it, you've been talking about through this whole last segment was how important just communication is too. That I think that can sometimes be that like unexpected obstacle in things that if you're not asking for something, probably nobody's going to be able to read your mind and be like, oh, so this is why you're frustrated or this is why you're feeling overwhelmed. Like unless you say it or ask for support or fine tune what you really need through communication, you might be stuck in a place that just doesn't feel as good.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay if we have a moment of blowing up. I mean, like, just I think it's important, and it's good to, I mean, that's not how we want to communicate all the time, but I think it's okay to have compassion for those moments, right? And um because those are the moments where we really recognize that something is off. And another resource that I want to throw at your people that has been a lifesaver for us as a family is a book. Don't get scared, but the book is called The Explosive Child. And this, I don't know if you have you heard of this book, but it is brilliant for very highly sensitive children. But what I found and what we found as a family is that it's an actually pretty concrete, effective way of communicating the needs of both parties and coming up with solutions. And the process that is explained in the book is called collaborative problem solving. So that's another amazing resource to like begin to practice. How do I ask for what I need, and also not just make it about me, that also include, you know, the other party, and how do we come up with solutions that work for both people, and give yourself permission to test it out. Like, I think it's my scientist brain that I'm always like, I'm testing this out. And you just test it out and see, does it work? Does it not work? Then you come back and you retweak it and talk again. And so that's another great little resource that I've gathered in my years of doing this.
That's awesome to know. I think that our viewers will probably enjoy being able to look that up. And something else that I like about what you were just saying was that you can just kind of test things out and see how it works for you. Like, try it on for size, and if it doesn't work, change it. Do something different. You know, and just be okay with the fact that if it doesn't work, it doesn't make you a bad parent, or it's okay if you have, like you said, that moment where you freak out or yell or something like that. Like, wherever you are, it's totally okay. And just know that you also have the power to set things in motion so that it can change if you're not completely satisfied with how it is.
Yes.
I know we're going to wind up changing gears a little bit, but I want to make sure that we talk about the 9-star, is it key tool?
Yes, KI.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is all right. So I learned this tool about 13 years ago. I was a brand new mom, 9 months old. She was 9 months old, and I had just begun doing my feng shui studies, and I became a feng shui consultant. But ever since then, I've been really using this tool. And so here's what this tool is. So it's as I mentioned it's a Chinese, or originally Japanese, now sort of it's incorporated into feng shui. And it's a way of looking at our own personal energy from an element standpoint. So some people will be, and I'll go through them. So it's 1 water, 2 soil, 3 tree, and people might want to write these down so that you can know which one you are. 4 tree, 5 soil, 6 metal, 7 metal, 8 soil, 9 fire. And we're going to go through how you figure out what your number is. And then once you know what your number is, it gives you a sense of how you approach life in general. Typically, you find there's 3 numbers that you would do, but for today, we're just going to do 1 number, make it super easy. And then when you know what your number is, again, you kind of get a baseline of how you approach life in general. But the really cool thing is, which brings me to this point of balance, is that every year, starting in the Chinese New Year, you enter into a new cycle. So, Hannah, what was your element? Do you remember?
I know that I was a 4 tree year.
Okay. Oh, you're in a 4 tree year, so you're probably a 1 water. Did I tell you that?
I wasn't a water. I know that. I could look it up if you want to.
Okay, while I'm talking. Yeah.
I'll
Well,
be able to bring it up.
my math, I'm a scientist, not a mathematician. But so we figure out our numbers, and then once we figure out our numbers, we know what year we're going into, and that gives us a sense of what the energies are that are supporting us. So for those of you who are listening, I have my phone here with my cheat sheet on how you calculate your numbers. So what you want to do is, as long as your birthday is after February 8th, you calculate it in this way. You take your birth year, and then you take the last two digits of the year. So, for me, it would be 70. I was born in 71. So it would be, I take 7 and 1, I add those two together, so that would be 8. And then I subtract, so I then take 10 minus that number. So for me, it would be 10 minus 8, it was 2. So 2 is my number, which is 2 soil. Did you find yours?
Okay, yeah. It says I'm a 4 tree energy and I'm entering a 7 metal year.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. So for those of you who are super curious, here's how it goes. If I'll give a very brief overview of each of the energies, because you'll want to know what you are. And then I'll give a very brief overview of the year and how you know the year that you're entering. So right now it would be, she's a 4 tree, she's going to 7 metal. So you add 3. I can do that math. So right, for me it's a 2 plus 3, it's 5. So I'm going into a 5 soil year. Is that clear enough? Am I explaining it okay?
Yes.
I'm trying to go fast so that I get it all in. All right.
Take your time. Take as much time as you need.
Okay, good. So if you are a 1 water, you are the person who can go with the flow. You can be as expansive as the ocean, or as flowy as a river, or kind of sometimes a little bit dark as the dark waters, right? And so depression can be something that is something that you deal with. The 1 water is very spiritual, very, very spiritual. And they're really here to show people how you can be flexible and how you just can flow through life. 2 soil. 2 soil is the energy of mother. And it's also the energy of community. If you're 2 soil, you're a lot about community. That's me. A lot of a community, sisterhood, the earth. You're probably very earthy. 3 tree is an energy of spring-like. So like the shoots in the spring, that kind of thing. So it's probably people who are like always like buzzing around, and they're going from this thing to that thing, and they just have so much energy. And it's also the energy of a lot of opportunities. 4 tree, as our host is today, her energy is like a big oak tree. So you can see that the oak is, tall, steady, very stoic. But then also, just like the leaves of the tree, they can go like this. So sometimes people can tend to see them as, you're going from one thing to another thing, or being swayed by this or that, probably a lot of interest. 5 soil is a very grounded energy. It's very much the energy of yin and yang. It's a very centering, balancing energy. Probably somebody who is confident and really like rooted in, like it's a rooting kind of soil energy. 6 metal is the energy of has more of a leadership kind of energy. It's a little bit more rigid than our 1 water would be. So it tends to be like people who maybe are, maybe not a lot of you, who are more structured and maybe love to work for somebody else, and just want to be in those places of leadership. I think 6 metals can be great entrepreneurs too, but they just may wrestle with structure. right? Because they want structure and they don't have it when you're an entrepreneur. 7 metal. I know 7 metals because my husband and my daughter are 7 metals. And 7 metals are the energy of very playful, very creative, um, very fun loving. What else? I mean, artists, a lot of artists tend to be seven metals. 8 soil is a more spiritual energy, a little different than the 1 water. It's more like a mountain. It's like the person who meditates by the mountain, right? That sort of very, very, but knowledge based too, like someone who loves to learn. 9 fire is I have a colleague who's a 9 fire, and she's just so 9 fire. Like she is just somebody who people notice, but not in a flamboyant way. It's just her energy. It's just very present. Fire, obviously, it's the energy that you can't escape fire. Like you see fire and you pay attention to it. So it's great for speakers. Great for people who are the face of a brand. Great for people who are comfortable shining, honestly. Okay, so that's the gist of all these different kinds of energies. Any questions that you have so far?
No, I think this stuff is so fascinating.
I know.
I like want to go around and figure out like all of the members of my family and then be like, oh, all right, yeah, I see it.
Really interesting because you start seeing how you support another. So today we don't have all the time to go into it intensely, but there's certain energies that support one another or feed the other one. And if you're not aware that your energy feeds another, then you wouldn't know that you constantly have to replenish, right?
Yeah.
If it's in an energy that's more in, they call it in a destructive cycle. So like metal would be to wood. So it can be like cutting, right? That kind of thing. If you don't know that, then you just think that, I don't know, your sister doesn't like you. But there's ways of balancing that out. And that's this stuff is so fascinating. I am doing a class later in end of February, going in depth with this, but it's fascinating to know ourselves, and it's fascinating to know the people in our lives. And what I find so empowering is to have the tools to bring ourselves into balance by knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So now let's talk about what year you're going into. So as I said before, so how you figure out your number, you take the last 2 digits of the year you're born, you add them together, and then you subtract 10 or 10 minus that number. If you number that you come up with is a double digit, you add it again. Like if it was a 12, then you add it again and it's a 3. So that's how you get your main number. You're going into, in 2016 and February 8th, some people have it different what the exact date is, but essentially in February is the new Chinese New Year. And you just want to add 3 to your number. So Hannah is going into, she's a 4 tree and she's going into 7 metal. So now I'm going to go through each of the years that you would be going into. So from 1 to 9. So if you are going into a 1 water year, this is, and a lot of you may either be, if you're new moms, you either maybe just have gone through a 1 water year or you're about to. I don't know why this happens this way, but for whatever reason, it's this way. But the 1 water year is the fundamental year. It's the year where you go very internal, where you almost like take a look at the past years that you've gone through and really assess, where am I going? And it's a foundational year because it lays the groundwork for the next 9 years. It can be frustrating for those of us who are a little more driven, because it's a very much an energy of stillness, but so important to have stillness, as a lot of you probably know, so that you can come into action from a place of clarity and from a place of alignment. All right, now we'll move into the two soil year. This can be another frustrating year for a lot of people who are like, I just want some action. I just want to get like some results. I want my business to be, blowing up. But the two soil year is very much the energy of planting the seeds and tending to the soil and preparing the ground and beginning to draw resources that are going to help the heart, help the plants grow more. So it can be these 2 years can feel a little bit more like, okay, when are we going to get started? But you start feeling like, nope, things are moving. And so just don't become frustrated, because things will start shifting. 3 tree. This is probably the year that most people love, because it's the year of opportunities left and right, and opportunities to speak, opportunities to go to conferences. And I usually say it's my year of yes. And literally, I prepare my family. I say to my husband, I'm going into a 3 tree year. Can you handle it? He's like, yep, okay, we're good, right? I'm going to travel a lot, like this is just the way it's going to be. So it can feel really exciting, but just remember that it can also be an energy that depletes a lot of you, right? If you're saying yes to everything, then when it's important that you create time for you and to self-nurture and all that good stuff. 4 tree year. This is the year where all these opportunities that you've been playing with in the previous year, some of them drop off. And this is the year of being very discerning of what you say yes to, because the things that you say yes to are those that are going to grow even further. And so it's not like you're going to get it wrong. That's not what I mean. It's just be discerning that it can be very tempting to keep going in that direction of yes here, yes there. But it's really an opportunity to grow something. Like, you plant something, you get the shoots, and then you want the big tree. So any questions so far? All good and clear?
So far, so good.
Okay, good. All right, so 5 soil year. This is the year that I'm entering into, so I'm really looking forward to it, because I've had some very active years. And 5 soil year doesn't mean that things stop. It just means that we have an opportunity to deepen. Deepen from a place of healing, and deepen from a place of even our own sense of what we offer. And I've found this to be already true, is that it really has become, I'm seeing as I'm projecting and planning into the year, that this is about deepening. This is not about yes this, yes that. It's about deepening what I already am or what I already offer. It can be also a year where you deal with old things. So old boyfriends or things that you thought you dealt with, but that are coming up again. And it's not, and it's so good and important to know when you're in a 5 soil year, as you can imagine, because you can think, well, I thought I already dealt with this. I thought I already healed this thing, but it comes up every 9 years so that we can heal it. And so just see it as that. It's not that you haven't dealt with certain things. It's just that it's time to heal it at a deeper level. Okay, 6 metal. 6 metal, as I said, it's a little bit more rigid of an energy. It's like the hard metal, and it's an energy of leadership. So it's a time when you can step into leadership, right? So 5 soil, you deepened. 6 metal, you, from that depth, you go into leadership, and you, that's when you absolutely say yes to speaking, even if you're afraid to. This is when you would do summits like this and say, yes, I mean, this is perfect for you actually, because you're at the tail end of your sixth medal. So it's perfect to be in a leadership role and say, I am, the person that I feel comfortable hosting all these people, but I'm really the central piece, the central glue to this. It's perfect. Seven medal, as you're stepping into, it's a year of having fun. It's a year of exploring creativity and travel. No, six medal is the time of travels. Seven medal is the time creativity, having a good time, being playful, and fun as much as possible. So then comes eight soil, which is very different energy. It's very much about spirituality, very much about knowledge. So that could be the time where you take a training that furthers your, your career. It can also be a time where you decide, I'm going to read a book a week. I see some people doing that, challenges like that. It's a perfect time to do that because the energy is so receptive to supporting you and learning and learning and learning. But it can feel a little bit of a quieter year because it's really preparing you for the next year, which is, again, one of those years that people love. And it's the 9 fire year. This is the year of being seen. It's the year of fame. And it's the year where if you're looking for work, your resume will go to the top of the list. Or if you're planning on writing a book, this is an ideal year of publishing your book. And you will be noticed. But the caveat to that is that just as you're noticed by the good things, you also may be noticed by some of those things that tend to trip you up a lot. And it's okay. It's okay that sometimes things are shown to us in a way that's a little bit painful, because that really brings it home of, you know what, this is something that I am needing to change. If that's what it is, or I'm needing to change the kind of relationships that I have. So that's all the years. Whew.
That's awesome. You did such a good job. And I know that our viewers are probably going to be so fascinated by this and be interested in learning more. So I want to make sure that they have all of your details before we end the interview. Could you tell us one more time what the name of your business is?
Sure. So it's my name, Asha, and my website is ashaisnow.com.
Perfect.
And I have a little gift for your community.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
Okay, so the gift that I have is just goes so beautifully with this place that you ladies are in right now, because it's a tool that will help you to be more present in the moment. And it's this workbook that I have put together that people love it. It's just so, I'm hope you love it as much as other people have. It's very easy to read, and it's called the Miracles Workbook. And it just walks you through what it really means to, here comes my other kid. And it really walks you through how to be in the now with a tool where you can heal anything that comes up at an emotional level. So if you're a sensitive person, if you're highly intuitive, this is an incredible tool. So, and you'll be sharing the link with them, or should I share the link?
I'll make sure that all of our viewers get your website, your Facebook group, and the link to your gift, which is such a beautiful gift. I can't wait to check it out.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think you'll really like it.
I'm sure that I will. So far, everything that you have shared with me has been something that has really resonated with me, and I've found really fascinating, or really, really like applicable to my life right now. So
good.
I want to thank you so much, Asha, for coming on the show today and sharing your expertise. I thought it was absolutely fascinating, and I am so excited to be sharing this with all of our viewers.
Well, I'm excited to be here and I love collaborating with you. You have such a great energy, and I'm sure that your community's just eaten up everything that you're sharing with them. So thanks for including me.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure. So viewers, check out the email for all of the links to make sure that you can connect with Asha on Facebook and find her website in case you want to maybe do some one-on-one work. And definitely check out the link to her free gift. And until next time, I hope you have a lovely day.